Hello, I am very happy to introduce the very beautiful, very talented, and very wonderful Paige Marie Smeltzer, who has been in some of my favourite verticals. Just to talk to, I'm so excited. I'm trying not to fangirl here. I'm trying to stay calm and not get overexcited. And now I'm going to ask Paige to just introduce herself as you would to someone you haven't met before. What would you tell the world about yourself?
Oh gosh. Well, hello everyone. I'm Paige Marie Smeltzer. I'm your typical, small town girl living in New York City, just chasing her dreams.
So, we mainly know you because this is a vertical drama channel, but I know that's not all you've done in your career because we have to remember that there is a world outside verticals. So, what got you into acting kind of as a kid?
Gosh, the first thing that comes to mind is The Wizard of Oz. That has been a family movie since I was a little girl, and I was in second grade, and my mother was like, "Oh, please, please audition for this." It was just like a TYA production of The Wizard of Oz at a very small school. And I did, and I was Dorothy, probably because I kind of looked like the part. Um, I don't think it was anything based on talent at that age. But then I caught the bug. It was my gateway drug into theater, and the people, the friendships that I have, that I still have, it all rooted from just doing stage.
So, I have to ask about that role. How did they do Toto?
It was a stuffed animal, most definitely. They
You
should
love
have
it.
an 8-year-old a dog. No.
Indeed.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you ever toy with doing anything else? Have you ever looked at doing other jobs, or have you managed to stay, I'm acting, that's what I'm doing?
I mean, everyone has their fun survival gigs. I was a bartender for a while, and as much fun that was, it was a pretty soul-sucking job. But I moved to the city and I was pretty ambitious, and I'm proud to say that I'm a full-time actor now with just the verticals. I try to spice it up with some shorts. I have this really, really cool project that I'm about to do. I'm working with Lindsay Normington. She was Diamond in Enora, and it's going to be a vampire film, not vertical, so I'm very excited about that. And I we'll see that down in like 2026, but I just try to stay in the film world. My heart will always be in musical theater, though. I miss the stage, but I have to go where the money is right now, unfortunately.
Because I know that's one of the things in London in the West End. It's really tough for shows, and is it the same on Broadway then that it's hard out there?
It is very hard. It's definitely like a who you know game, and if you're non-equity, that's a whole nother challenge. So
So, am I right in thinking that your first vertical was the Divorced Billionaire Heiress?
there was one before, but that one didn't do too hot. But I'm mostly known for starting off as Sarah in The Divorced Billionaire.
So obviously the reason a lot of people know you as that is 360 million people have watched this. Which my favourite fact that I found out before I interviewed Mariah Moss is the population of America is 340 million. So that's like as if every single person in the USA has watched it for context, and then another load as well. That's like, because otherwise it's just a number, isn't it? It doesn't really mean anything. But that's just to give you context of how big that is. So
Oh,
what a role to start in. And that obviously that just went crazy. And the interesting thing about that is it still goes, doesn't it? I know Mariah was saying she'll still see adverts pop up. You're still bringing new people into it and encountering you there.
it's never ending. It's never ending. I still get messages being like, "Hi, Sarah. My name is fully Paige." And I'm like, "Hello." But yeah, that one really put me on the map as a villain, and I would start getting villain roles left and right, and it didn't start until September of this year, or last year, I should say. They wanted to start rebranding me as the good girl trope.
So how does that work? Because I know that's one of the challenges that you can get slightly stuck in the eyes of the industry of like if you want a good villain, you bring Paige in. So how do you go about rebranding yourself so that you do a wider range of roles?
I think what I try to do and what I feel like everyone should do, these scripts are so trying to be nice. You can tell that there's no human truth to them. So I try my very best to bring as much page truth to it as possible. And if I'm a quirky white girl, then screw it. I'm gonna be that quirky white girl in the audition. I try to bring a little twist to even my villains. That brings it on that heightened level that this is Paige, this is her style. With rebranding, I'm still trying to figure that out to this day because I'm still juggling between the two, but it keeps me fresh on my feet if I'm being honest, because there's a formula for both types.
So can you share a little bit of the formula of what do you do to become villainous? Like, is it because I always think the outfits help.
The outfits help, but you also have to be like really angry or really horny. You can mix it, you can play around with the two, and that's as simple as it can be. I would love to have that on a coffee mug, like I'm angry and horny. That's the basic range, and hopefully, writing will allow villains to have more of an arc.
Yeah, I think that's something the fans want to see now because I know that, like I would say, the Vertical of 2023 it was quite a one-note villain. And what the interesting thing we're seeing now in 2025 is that there are some villains who are getting redeemed, or we're getting a bit more of a backstory, as a bit more understanding of what their motive is beyond just they're horrific and or they're angry and horny. That's what they want to do.
Yes, yes, I want to see more duality for sure.
Yeah. So then obviously the other, I think, am I right in thinking that your first role, not as a villain, was Hurt Me, Love Me? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So obviously that's a total change because that's very much a, I would say a kind of victim role. Would you be happy saying that?
100%
Yeah.
she is definitely a victim.
But I think the thing that's most interesting in that is the fact that the character doesn't talk for most of it, and you use sign language. Did you know sign language before? How did that work?
So I tell you the full story.
Yeah.
I was on set with Mariah Moss for another billionaire project, and this is when they were talking about the rebranding.
Mm.
They then pulled me aside on set. They gave me these sides and said, "Can we have this done by tomorrow?" I looked and they were in general English, and I was like, "Sure." But they said, "Here's the catch, you have to do it in sign language." I am proficient. By proficient, I know like little sayings that my friends have taught me. I know the alphabet here and there, but it's gone. And the words that they are providing me do not exist in the ASL world. Um, so I downloaded this fun app called ASL Pocket, and you can type in any sentence and it'll give it to you. And that is how I learned for that audition.
I do think that's what makes the role so good, that you're so committed to it and that you do the sign language throughout. And actually, I would say you act through it as well. I would say you feel her emotions and what she's trying to say. And if it's possible, you do angry sign language and you do pleading sign language and you do like I love you sign language. So I just want you to know it works. It was brilliant.
Thank you. It was one of the hardest projects I've ever done. I was promised a speech coach on set. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
Mm.
So I truly locked myself in a room. Teague was very patient with me. And we got through it. It was a long 7 days though.
So that I know that's one of the things that happens in, particularly because if people don't know, you mainly work in New York, don't you? You're filming on the East Coast. And
Yes.
so what happens is there's like a little group of actors. So if you have a look on, as I did on Paige Marie Smeltzer on IMDb, you go, oh yes, there's Teague and there's Zane and then there's Amanda, and you kind of get to know certain names. Does that make it easier that because it reminds me almost like of a theatre troupe, that you've kind of got a sort of an extended family of players that you're often working with?
The way I like to think about it is it's a cast, and we're just in different seasons or different stories, and they're like family to me. I know. I just yes, yes, it does help. It helps me when I'm on set, especially if the content is a little harder than usual. But it right now in New York, we're kind of in this transitional period of getting people from the West Coast, so there will be new faces.
Is that okay, or are you all a bit like, but this is New York? Don't want all you West Coast people.
Oh, sweetheart, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. I think the more opportunities and the more faces we get out there, the more stories we can start pumping out
Yeah,
as well.
that makes sense. So we've covered Hurt Me, Love Me, and then I really want to talk about Come Back for You because I think that's probably people's favourite project to date that you've been in. So if people don't know the story, I'll do a very quick thing. It's the classic death revenge one. You have a great horrific death at the beginning that's I think is quite Dickensian. Reminds me of Dickens. It's like the beautiful heroine and it's sort of that. But then you get the chance to redo it all over
Mhm.
and then go back. And then I think that story's been made quite a few times. And I was actually talking to Chinese journalists at the weekend and they said it's one of the most popular ones over in China, that story. And it all comes from a web novel, apparently. It's a web novel was where it originally started. But I think there is a satisfaction, depending on how well it's done, of seeing the female lead turn the tables on the guy who's basically, treated her appallingly. And one of the best things through it is watching that character's dawning horror of, hang on, she's not just doing what I said anymore. And it's really good fun. And then obviously the other thing as well is you've got Teague in it again, and it's a very good sort of pining love story, which is there's a really classic Chinese drama where it's a similar relationship if it's a tutoring a relationship. And they actually, I don't know if you guys know, but actually some of the ways they set up the scene, they echo the way it's filmed in this massive, like long form Chinese drama that's like one of the most famous Chinese dramas. So I think they knew what they were doing there for that audience. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's like, oh, Hidden Love. That's it. It's called Hidden Love.
Hidden Love. I'm going to write that down. Hidden
But
Love.
they actually sit you in the same position that they have the characters in this, because in that one it's that she's basically the kid's sister and eventually gets out of the kid zone into the adult zone and helps him. It's one of the best things you'll ever watch. But I think they knew what they were doing with that tutor thing because it works really well in that. Um, and then you get to do kind of quite a lot of fun things in that one. There's quite a bit at college. You have a very good tennis match. You get some amazing dresses. There's a fantastic scene where Zane, I always call it Zane, I can't remember the character's name, spending all the money at the restaurant and you just have this glee of like, is it fun playing that? Because I felt it gave you a lot more to play with as an actress, that role.
That one was my favorite role ever. I shine best in comedy. I don't know if it's just like the natural cadence of comedy that lies within my body. I don't think I'm funny, but I play it well. Um, but sorry, there's a garbage truck and it gave me a heart attack. Um, but yeah, it come back for you. I definitely want to see more stories like that where the main lead is wronged and she does have like a great revenge story.
Did you manage to keep a straight face with Teague's character's name? Johnny Wonder.
We made jokes all the time about that. Or like saying like my Wonder Boy. It's so silly.
Because I think it was done because the tennis match, it means either you can hold up a sign saying the boy wonder. I'm like, was the entire name so that you could hold up that sign?
I I don't know. I don't know who comes up with the names. I was actually talking to the writer about it and I was like, why Johnny Wonder? And they were like, my husband just thought it was a cool name.
I really love, I think it's got some one of the best end scenes as well. So the denouement in the lecture theatre,
Yeah.
because obviously we go to vertical logic of you've been seen with an older man. So clearly is therefore your sugar daddy, which is Vertland logic. And then obviously there's this brilliant thing of we know that actually one, it's your father, not your fuzzy daddy. And even better, he's like head of the university or something. And then it's great fun just watching. I think it's Talia, isn't it? Just dig her hole bigger and bigger.
Mhm. Mhm.
How is it? What do you think of these kind of Vertland stories? Because they're a bit like, how do you work with that as an actor? Because as you said, there's not a whole lot of truth in them.
Although there's these very cookie cutter plot lines, um, again, it's really about just bringing yourself in the role. I remember sitting next to Teague and I go, "This sucks. What do we do?" And he said, "Let's just improv it. Let's just feed off of each other and we'll see how it goes." And I think that's why he's one of my favorite people to work with, is because he's so ready to just throw the script out the door and just be present. Which varies with the client that you're working with. However, I think that's the reason why Come Back for You was so successful, is because you take this formula and there was just everyone was themselves. Even my dad, he was like, "Let's just say Bella every once in a while." And I was like, "Let's do it. Let's do it." So I think just stepping in, leaving reality at the door, and just really being present with one another helps these formulas go along until writing starts changing, which hopefully is soon.
So that's really interesting then, that it is trusting all of you, isn't it? So
It is.
trusting the actors, trusting the actresses to interpret it, and how interesting that you're allowed to do that in that one. And that is the one that I would say is the most beloved of your
Yeah.
projects so far. It's really lovely, the ending.
The ending is great.
It's really lovely, the fact that he kind of knows. And yeah, I also have to go back to the beginning as well, because you do look phenomenal, and I mean you always look phenomenal, but you look particularly phenomenal in this. I want to know about the scene where both of your hair ruffles in the wind, because it's iconic. So you like meet again, and your hair ruffles in the wind, and Teague's hair ruffles in the wind, and I want to know how that happened. How do they make your hair ruffle?
We were in a penthouse in Midtown,
Mhm.
and there's electric leaf blowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use those.
Okay. So secret's the trade. So yeah.
Yes. Only because they're quiet and they're very powerful.
Yeah.
We had to do multiple slow-mo takes on me because I couldn't keep a straight face, or like my eyelashes would be a little extra. And of course T took one take. Whatever. I'm
Yeah.
still bitter about it.
So I have to ask now about your beautiful arm, because it's got some gorgeous tattoos. Are there any you'd like to share the stories about?
Um,
Or is-
yeah, all of these are quite personal to me, but this one is Across the Universe, The Beatles.
Oh,
Um,
good choice.
that movie is so near and dear to my heart as well.
Yeah.
But this one is my most recent one. And I'll just leave it at that. The
Yeah,
rest is
that's
secret.
fine. So people have watched your verticals. Sometimes we've seen your tattoos,
Hmm.
and sometimes we haven't. How does that work then? Presumably, it's not an issue anymore, because I think tattoos are so common. Kind of people are used to working with them. How does the makeup work? Just how does it work, basically?
Gosh, for sure. They're a little more lenient on the male actors with tattoos. I've noticed that their tattoos are rarely covered.
Mm.
Usually when I'm playing the good girl, they like to cover up the arm. Now, it varies with the production. Some people have tried airbrushing my arm and like matching my skin tone. Others use Dermablend, which is basically a body foundation. And the plus side about being airbrushed is it's non-transferable. So if I'm thrown on sheets or if I'm hugging someone, it doesn't get on the fabric. I just did one
Yeah.
and I was like, watch the arm, or they'll grab it if I'm being taken away. I always have to warn people if there's intimacy scenes. I'm like, let's focus on the forearm. There's just ways to cheat around it. sometimes it does hinder my performance, and I really like get in my head about, man, maybe I shouldn't have ink. But if I'm on like a SAG set or a SAG project, they they do the proper care. So I think just a few more times, or like being really good friends with an MUA, they make sure that my arm is safe during production.
Um, and the dresses. I think you've worn some of the most beautiful dresses on verticals. Do you have your own wardrobe? Because I know that you're often working with the same production company. Are there certain ones that, like, we know pay these fit pay agents will work well? And are you allowed to keep anything?
We're not allowed to keep anything, but we can buy from the production if we really do like the
Mm.
dress. It has gotten to a point where I work with Journey Entertainment a lot, and they just kind of have a pile of dresses for me, especially ones that are stained with foundation.
Yeah.
But
So you've kind of claimed it. It's Paige's dress.
I marked my territory.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite dress that you've worn? I know I'm going quite shallow here. I will ask deeper questions as well, I promise.
No, and now I'm like recalling back to all the dresses I wore. And Come Back For You during the ending scene, it's the silver dress and it has like the chain. That one is my favorite one.
Yeah, I think that's my favourite. Although I have just rewatched After Awakening, and obviously you come in the end and you have the most amazing like 80s style red dress with like power. I mean, it's iconic as a look.
Oh, for sure. I felt like a true Disney villain.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? It's Disney villain, those sleeves.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I came in, it helped the physicality.
Yeah. Because I think that's like the perfect example of, as you said, of a costume helping with getting you into the role of a villain.
Costumes do definitely
Yeah.
help. Definitely.
Which I've realised I've set myself up brilliantly here. I'm very pleased with this. Talking of costumes, you then got to wear really different costumes in it's hang on, I gotta get the name right. It's Race to My Heart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
racing to my heart. There's a
Racing
race
to My
to my
Heart.
heart
Yeah,
and a
I got it
racing.
right. Because you spend a lot of time in jeans in this one.
Oh, yes.
Was that a nice change of pace because you weren't in the heels and you got to wear the flats?
It was a nice, this was the closest role to Paige Marie Smeltzer. Let me tell you, I've come from the sticks. I shot commercials at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So when I saw this casting call, I was like, you guys would lose out if you didn't cast me. And luckily they were like, okay, okay. It took multiple rounds of auditions and chemistry reads, but this role meant so much, and the costume really did help, especially since it was my first one in LA. I'm kind of nervous, and it really helped me ground myself and, reminded me of who I was.
So what was it about the role that you really loved?
Well, one, I loved how she was in a male-dominated field, and two, I think it was the writing of this script too. I always love a slow burn romance, and it was really, really fun to play that with Ryan.
Yeah, because it's definitely not one of the love at first sight ones, is it? It's kind of she's liked him, but I don't think at the beginning she really ever expects it to go anywhere. It's just like, oh, I like him, he inspires me, but that's never going to be anything. And then
Hmm.
obviously it really builds beautifully between you both. How does it work with the chemistry reads then?
Chemistry reads, you are basically on a Zoom call with the
Mm.
client, sometimes the producer of like the production
Yeah.
company, and then the director and casting director and
Mm.
whoever you're reading with.
Yeah.
And they'll give you a very short set of sides and you perform it. I like to walk around the space. I'm always someone who likes to be like, this is the ground I stand on. And you just go through the sides and they say thank you and you just wait for an email.
Do you get a sense of when you're doing those of like this is going to work?
100%.
So you can come off it and go, yeah, this is a good one.
Yes. It's also gotten to the point where even if people are offering me scripts, I can kind of go through and be like, yes, I'm the girl for this, or no, maybe I'm not. And it's really nice to have that flexibility, especially with how many of these are being produced. So I don't even feel like I'm in that scarcity mindset anymore taking what comes to me.
Yeah. So obviously that was an what was it like filming in LA as well? Because that's obviously being in a new city.
Yes. I very much loved it. I was always New York or LA, especially after I got my representation. And something drew me to New York because everyone's a little more staged. But in LA, they were very fast paced. They were very on top of it. They do things a little bit differently. And I also think that they're about 5 steps ahead of the verticals going on in New York, which is
Mm.
totally fine because they've kind of had the essence of film for much
Yeah.
longer.
Because I know there's also a lot of opportunities coming up as now. We're seeing quite a lot of actors going to China and filming there. Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
I've been offered to go to Qingdao, but I I don't know why I'm so hesitant. It's almost like the right script, but the wrong time. Like I have a wedding to go to or something silly like that. But I definitely the productions there, from what I've heard from my friends, are so nice. And the way that you're treated as an actor, sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's like, oh, it's really cold and I'm not having a blast, but
So, what would you like to do in the year ahead? Because I know we've talked a little bit about writing as well. So I'd love to know what your plans and hopes and ideas are for the future.
well, I did send my first 10 episodes to a production company. I can't say which one. Um, but it's with two female leads. Hopefully that will come into fruition, but until then, I'm just going to keep writing these scripts and throwing them out. I would really love to see more original works. I would really love to see, more open casting to different demographics. I mean, I can list a whole PDF of reasons of what needs to be done, but I do think we are slowly getting to where we need to be. It's just slow.
What stories would you like to tell?
Oh God. Again, I'm such a rom-com girl. I also love thrillers. I would love to see more um like psychological thrillers or more of a horror genre in verticals because right now we get werewolves, but they're sexy. Vampires, but they're sexy. But something that really like puts you on edge when you're scrolling and you're like, "Oh my God, what happens next?" And I think those formulas as well will sign you up for success on that alone.
Because to me, it seems a really obvious thing to do because I think it fits with the format. Because obviously
Exactly.
horror can be quite raw. Thinking of Blair Witch Project, that works on a loop, and it fits with the cliffhanger thing. Because obviously that's
Exactly.
one of the pressures that Vertical have. If you've got to hook people in, and like obviously a thriller and horror, they've got that pace. And I think the other thing I know the apps are trying to do is bring a wider audience in. And if you get some horror out there, you're definitely going to bring in new viewers, aren't you?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
It was hilarious. I spoke to an actress who said, "Oh, I'm filming a horror vertical, and she's going to be in the woods next week."
What?
Yeah, and then actually I put it on my Instagram stories, and it was hilarious. So the response from the fans was half and half. Half were like, "Oh my goodness, yes," and then a half were like, "Well, I won't be watching that," which is like, it's fine. I'm a wimp. I wouldn't watch them either.
I
But then
would
the
watch
best thing was the response from the actors because I basically got inundated with male actors going, "I need to be in a horror vertical," because clearly they've spent their time, having showers and towels falling off. But also quite a few female actresses as well who were like, "Right, I'm ready to run. I'm ready to scream. I'm ready to take it all on." So they are happening. So I would say, if you've got scripts around that, keep pushing them because, yeah, we need to see that.
I'm so excited. Goodness.
It's happening, yeah. I also want to ask you about comedy as well, because I think we need more comedy in verticals. Can you see ways of making that happen and kind of what sort of style would work in vertical?
Most definitely. Um, it's hard because you can look at, your cult classics and you can adapt them however you want. But oh God, That's a really good question because it truly also depends on the actors you hire to sell the comedy. Um, it would have to have little twists and turns.
Because I think Screwball works quite well. And also that kind of fast-paced comedy where it's banter.
No, 100%.
That
I want
works.
to like give away what I'm writing right now, but I
No,
can't.
don't, it's all right, don't worry. Um, and also I think Fast could work quite well, I feel. Because
Hmm.
again, that's quite visual. And it's giving them quick hooks. And then I have to ask about musical verticals because my goodness, the fans want them. We desperately want them. And then you've told me you have a background and your love is musical theatre.
You guys really want musical verticals? What is so funny is when we do a banquet scene, for example,
Hmm.
we'll have, the rich side, the rich bitchy side, and then you have like the secretly rich side. But it's perfectly set up for like, the West Side Story, like yeah.
Or I was thinking we could go pitch perfect. You could have a riff off. Dance battle. The vertical dance battle. That could work.
But
Yeah,
these could work. Those could work. But you would have to swipe past the paywall to see the dance break
yeah.
for sure.
Brilliant. Well, it'd be like in music. You'd have to get past the bridge, wouldn't you? If you want to get past the bridge in the song, you go to the table. 'Cause the thing that someone said to me as well, which I thought was really true, was obviously if you're looking for bits on TikTok to go viral, like some sort of dance move or song on in a vertical would be perfect, wouldn't it, for going viral on TikTok? Yeah, I just want to keep talking about it. I'm also putting together a band, so I don't know if you know this, but evidently Brad Hamler's an amazing ballroom dancer.
Oh, I did not know that. What?
So, so yeah, he could. So I'm like, he needs to come and ballroom dance somewhere. I know Teague plays the piano a bit, but does the guitar. So it's kind of I'm trying to gather a band so that we kind of know who everyone's skills are.
Oh my God. Well, if you need a bass player, you know
So
who
your
to
bass
call.
player, good.
There you go.
Have you got any other talents like that that you'd like to be able to showcase on screen?
Um, I am definitely a rock beltress. I grew up on Janis Joplin. My dad does shrooms, so like if you name any band in the 70s, it is in my blood. So if if anything, I would love to show my vocal talent one day. If it's in a vertical setting, so be it. But yeah, besides singing and playing the bass, I can move. I can bust a few moves, but there's no way I'm hitting a triple pirouette.
That sounds amazing. I feel like we could do like a sort of more. Yeah, I used to love the those dance movies. But
Yes.
basically, Step Up happened, and then basically there was a decade. I did watch every single one. I've watched every single Step Up.
Oh my
There was commitment. My husband called it like, oh, is that another movie about the redemptive power of dance? Like, yes, yes, it is, because dance makes everything better. Which was,
God.
but yeah, I feel that could work really well in verticals, that format.
That definitely could. If you took a Step Up Revolution and then adapted it, oh, 100%. You would just have to find, again, the right people, director. It's all about that.
Um, so going forward, what other projects have you got coming up? Obviously, we're very excited about the script. We want that to happen, but are there any other things that you can tease us with?
Well, as I said before, I am doing the vampire short. It's going to be a festival piece. Very excited for that. Finally being in rooms where I turn on my TV and I'm like, I want to work with you, and it's finally coming into fruition. Um, and I mean, I'm writing a feature, and the reason why I keep doing these is I do eventually want to produce. It would be a very, very skeleton crew, low budget kind of thing. But I think especially now, with the way that Hollywood is being run, creating your own things and finding your community and just pushing out things that are truthful to you, whether it blows up or not, is so, so important. Because you can edit something on Premiere Pro and next thing you know, it wins an Oscar. So it's just little things that like that. It's all like this work in general has made me more hungry to do the things that I feel like I am placed on this earth to do, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And what would you say to young actors, actresses coming through? Would you recommend verticals? What advice would you give them if they're starting out in the industry?
I would recommend verticals only because it's consistent work and it puts you in a room with people that you might look up to. I worked with many famous voice actors, and now I'm getting auditions for video games that I never even fathomed of doing. And I truly think these are the perfect building blocks, the perfect training rooms that young artists need to be in. Now, there are bad habits that you can pick up, but I'm just saying if you were to start and break in, just kind of embrace it all instead of pushing it away, it will do you more good than evil.
Nice. So I have to just ask you a few final fun questions. That's all right with you.
No,
Okay. So, what was the last movie you saw at the cinema? Well, you actually went to the cinema.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
That's all right. There's no judgment.
It's been so long. But yeah.
Okay. What are you currently watching on TV? Like, what's the latest thing you've binge watched on TV?
Hacks. Hacks on HBO Max.
Good choice. Very good
I
choice.
love it. I'm on season 2, so don't spoil.
Not to
But
spoil. Okay. And then because you're in New York, I have to ask, what's the last thing you saw on stage?
I mean, Broadway I haven't seen much yet.
Mm,
But I go down to the Grizzly Pear on Lower East Side and see so many comedy shows every Friday. So
yeah.
again, I love comedy.
Mm.
So,
Just out of interest, is Broadway affordable? Like ticket prices? Like, is it something that's accessible to the average person?
yeah. N- No, but there are lotteries that I enter in all the time. And if you want, a seat in the nosebleeds,
Mm,
sure, you can pay maybe like $100, $200, but again,
mm,
that's a lot for a night for the
yeah.
average person.
Because that's one of the issues I think with West End as well. You know,
Mm.
it's very expensive, and particularly with some of the shows where they have really gone for it with the production values. So
Yep.
like, Frozen, they went for it, but then the prices were just like eye-watering.
Yep.
Um, and it does, I think it excludes a lot of people from that experience because it's just not affordable.
No,
Um, which
unfortunately.
is interesting when you compare it to verticals, because I know sometimes it can look expensive, but I actually think, on some of the best apps, Shortmax and Drama Box, for me it's about £15 in a week, but then I'm unlocking, 100 plus shows. So I think actually when you can, that's why it's having such an impact, because it's much more accessible to people than, going to Broadway. It's just not something the average person can do.
Unfortunately not. But I will say there are a lot of off-Broadway actors in verticals in New York
Mm,
because New York actors tend to do more stage. I just worked with Michael Stafford and he was in the off-Broadway tour of Saw. So
yeah.
you're gonna get new faces. Right, not right. Michael is a new face. So once you see his work, you will see more familiar faces on stage going to the vertical world.
So do you think that the opinion of the vertical world's changed then? It's kind of, because I know initially there was quite a lot of pushback of like, oh, what is this thing? Do you think now bigger names are seeing that this is where the work is and the potential to improve and elevate the space?
Look, it's in demand. People love it, and I feel like it's getting to the point where even like the major platforms of Paramount or Amazon, they're definitely looking into creating apps for vertical content. So this isn't going away. If anything, it's just beginning. And right now, even with the young actors who want to start doing these, I think now's a really, really, really good time to jump into it. That way you're familiar with how these work, because I truly think by 2030, this is going to be a whole different thing.
Totally agree. I just want to say thank you so much because you have shared so much and you've been utterly amazing. So
You've been amazing. Goodness. Thank you.